Good morning, Year 5, and welcome to your Tuesday maths lesson. Today we're going to be rounding to 10, 100, and 1,000. You would have done this before in the autumn term, but let's just do a little bit of revision so that we can be secure in our rounding. Today, again, you will need some paper and a pencil, and of course, your very active brain. If you haven't got paper and pencil, pause the video and get what you need. Let's continue. So to give us a good warm-up, a good thinking for our brain to think really well this morning, pause the video now and quickly answer these 4 questions. Please write out the whole sequence of numbers, starting with number 1. Let's check and see how well you did. For number 1, we are counting in tens. So the first missing number is 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. For number 2, we start off with 340, and the other 2 missing numbers are 390 and 400. For number 3, we have to find a missing number. 46 plus something equals 52, and the answer is 6. And if I have a number and I take 8 away, my answer will be 10. I have to add 10 and 8 together to get that number, and that's 18. Well, give me a big thumbs up if you have all of them correct. Well done. Let's continue. Let's just quickly have a look at our rounding rules. Now, sometimes we get a little bit muddled up with our rounding, especially if we round with large numbers to a large rounding number like 1,000. But the rules are very similar. If a digit, the ones digit, is 1, 2, 3, or 4, we leave the 10 just as before. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we round up to the next 10 on the number line. So if my number is 34 and I want to know which way to round to the nearest 10, I have to look at the 4. That will tell me I do not change my 10 and I will round it down to 30. If the tens digit is 1, 2, 3, or 4, leave the 100 just as before. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, round up to the next 100 on the number line, if we round up to 100. Now, if my number is 66, am I going to round up or down? You can shout out. Exactly, we will round up because 6 is more than 4. If the hundreds digit is 1, 2, 3, or 4, leave the thousands just as before. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, round up to leave the next 1,000 on the number line. And this same example as the others, but now we're working with hundreds and we're rounding to 1,000. If my number is 299 and I have to round to the nearest 1,000, is my number closer to 1,000 or closer to 0? Well done, it is closer to 0, so therefore I will round down to 0. Now you can always come back to this slide if you are stuck with your work today. I will also put this on J2 Launch for you so that you can refresh your memory. Now let's round 73 to the nearest 10. You can use a number line to help you. On my number line, because I'm counting, I want to round to 10, I'm going to count in from 70 to 80. And every little line in between, the space is worth 10 altogether. But the space between the little lines equals 1. So if I'm going to count, you can see each space is worth 1. Then I'm going to find 73 and see, is it closer to 70 or to 80? And you can see that it is clearly very close to 70. So 73 rounded to the nearest 10 is 70 rather than 80. It's closer to 70 than it is to 80. When we want to round 2,755 to the nearest 10, we have to remember our rules. We are rounding to 10, so therefore we have to look at our ones. And the rule is 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, we round to the next 10. But once again, we've drawn a number line here to help us. And because we're counting in 10, we're going to start off here 2,750, 51, 52, 53, 54, and so forth until we get to 260. So right here will be 2,755. Sorry, 2,755. I can't speak today. So you can see that my number is very, very close together. It's actually right in the middle. 55 is in the middle of 50 and 60. But because our rule says we have to look at the ones, we are rounding up and our number will be 2,760. Now, if we want to round to the nearest 100, what are we going to do then? Pause the video and have a little think. Let's see. We're right in the middle, but 2,755 is a little bit more. Because we're counting in hundreds, 2,700, my next 100 will be 2,800, way over here. What is my spaces worth now? That's right. So if I want to round that down, I have to look at my tens value for 2,755. It is 5, so it's more than 4, so we're going to round up. I'm going to go to my next 100, and my next 100 here will be 2,800. If I want to round 2,755 to the nearest 1,000, I obviously need to count in thousands from 2,000 to 3,000. So which way do you think it will go? Will it be closer to 2,000 or closer to 3,000? You can pause the video and have a little think. Let's see if you were right. So 2,755 is now much closer to 3,000 on our number line. And the 7 tells us that we have to round up to the nearest 1,000. Therefore, we will round to 3,000. The next one you are going to do by yourself. Pause the video and work out if 16,409 is nearer to 16,000 or to 17,000. Let's see if you are right. Well done if you said it's closer to 16,000. Even without the number line, if you apply your rules, you will see that the 4 of the 400 is lower than 5, and our rule says 1, 2, 3, and 4. We do not change the 1,000. We stay where we are and we round down to the zeros. So for today, what can you expect in your work? You might have a question like this one. What multiples of 10 do the numbers sit between? Now, if you can see here, we were counting in 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're counting in ones. So my number to start of my number line would be 90. And my last number would be 100. So those are the multiples of 10, which means it can be divided by 10. That's these numbers sit between. It might also be multiples of 100 or multiples of 1,000, depending on what the question is asking you. Another question you might get is to say whether each number on the line is closer to 330 or 340. Have a look. Remember what we did in our questions before? What do you think? That's right. 332 we can see here is much closer to 330 than it is to 340. So our answer for that one will be 330. 334, is it closer to 340 or 330? And this is where a number line comes in really handy for you when you do rounding, because you can visualize where the numbers must sit on the number line. 337 is closer to 340, and so is 339. Use the number line to help you round the start numbers to the nearest 10. Now, this is my start number here. I'm going to show you a little method that I use. Doesn't matter if it's to 10, 100, or 1,000. If you work step by step, it will help you. So the question wants to know what number should be here, what number should be there, and then what we are going to put in here. What is this number, 38, rounded to the nearest 10? Let's look at our steps. So first of all, I need to place 38 on my number line, but there's no little line, so I have to count on very carefully in ones 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So I already now know that 38 will be the orange little line. So my last number that I'm going to add in is my tens. The next number will be 40. So my starting number must therefore be 30, because I'm rounding to the nearest 10. Now I want you to pause the video and do the following one for 74. You can do it my method, or if you already know the rules, you can do it your way. Let's see how well you've done. First of all, we've added little lines to our number line. We counted, and we realize that 74 is closer to 70 than it is to 80. So therefore, 38 rounded to the nearest 10 is 40, and 74 rounded to the nearest 10 is 70. Excellent. Another question that you might get today will be complete the table. Now, this is just a small bit of a table just to show you how I would do that. Now we're going to round to the nearest 100. Step 1, count all your hundreds. There are 500, so there are 5 hundreds equaling 500. Step 2, count all the tens. Super, 60, yellow, 10 counters. Now count all your ones. 5. And as you would guess now, we're going to add them all together and we're going to end up with a total of 565. Now we need to round to the nearest 100. If you remember your rules, for rounding to 100, we have to look at the tens value, which will be the 6. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we round up, which means our hundreds will change. So therefore, we round that to the nearest 100, it will be 600. I hope you all can give me a thumbs up that you understand what you need to do. A question that you might get today would look like this. Circle the correct number that the start number is rounded to. So it was going to give you some options and you have to choose which one is correct. So your start number is here in the beginning. It tells you it has been rounded to the nearest 10. Which one will it be? So if I round 6,882 to the nearest 10, which number do I look at? That's right, we look at our ones. It is less than 5, 1, 2, 3, or 4. We do not round up, it stays down, and our number will be 6,880. And then you just circle your number. Then you move on to round it to the nearest 100, and you complete the same procedure. Look at your tens for this number, and you'll find out it's rounded up to 6,800. You're getting really good at this now. So for the next one, I want you to very quickly figure out for me. What would 6,882 rounded to the nearest thousand be? Fantastic. I think you have it all correct. It will be 7,000, and you circle your 7,000. The last activity I would like you to look at today is when you have a grid like this and it's asking you to figure out what the number is, round it to 10, to 100, and to 1,000. First of all, we're going to add our number coins together, number coins or counters. You add them together and you write the number underneath. That will really help you to focus on what you need to round. Now remember, we always use the start number to round. So my start number here is 1,311. If I want to round to the nearest 10, I have to look at my ones. Am I going to round up or down? You can shout out. Yes, we're rounding down, so our 10 is not changing. It stays 10. If I want to round to my nearest 100, I have to look at my tens. Therefore, the 1 is in blue to signify the tens column. And if I round up or down, yes, we're going to round down because it's 1. It is less than 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 rounds down. My 3 is not going to change. Notice how the ones is turning into zeros. So whenever you round to 100 or to a 10, you will not have a 1, 2, 3, or 4 at the end there. It will always turn into a 0. And let's have a look at the last one. 1,311 round to the nearest thousand. So now we're going to look at our hundreds column, which is the purple 3. What is the rule? Can you remember? Do I round up or down? That's right, we round down. It is less than 4. Therefore, my 1,000 is not changing, but my 311 is turning into zeros. And the closest it is, the closest 1,000 it can be rounded to is 1,000. Right, so now you're going to pause and you're going to write down the purple Dean's number for me. And you're going to round them down to, or round to the nearest 10, the nearest 100, and the nearest 1,000. Let's see how well you've done. When I add them all together, I get 4,605. If I round to 10, 4,610, because 5, the rule says if I have a 5, I have to round up, which means my 10 is changing. The 4 and the 6 stays the same. If I round to 100, from 4,605 to the nearest 100, I have to look at my 0. Therefore, the rule says I do not have to change it. It stays 4,600. And lastly, if I look at my thousands, to round to 1,000, I have to look at my hundreds column. My hundreds column here is a 6. So what do you think? I'm going to round up or down? Well done. We're going to round up, which means our thousands will change and all the other numbers turn into zeros. Give yourself a pat on the back if you have them all correct. So well done, Year 5. You have now revised rounding to 10, 100, and 1,000. You can now go over to J2E and find your maths sheets. There will be 2 sheets for you to work on, and some of it will be problem solving, and page 3 will be challenges. They might be a bit tricky, but have a go. You'd never know. You might surprise yourself. Enjoy your day, and I'm looking forward to mark your work. Goodbye.